Imagine a perfect team, excellent product or service, compelling market, good funding. Isn't that the recipe for a great growth success? Just follow these 4 steps and success will follow, right? You all are great growth entrepreneurs here today. My name is Samppa Velkuna, and I'm a board member of Boardman Grow. While I'm not hosting these fabulous, great events, I'm also a founder and the CEO of a Superson, which is a company that is helping growth companies to succeed in their international markets. When we first brainstormed the idea of this event and we were thinking about it, what really makes the successful growth companies a success, and we found these 4 multipliers that are super crucial in that one. I started immediately to think from my own perspective as a founder and a growth entrepreneur, that do we have a perfect team? Is our service at the proper level? Is there a market for us, and do we have enough funding? So all these multipliers that we are talking here today. The interesting fact with the multipliers is that if, as you know from the mathematics, my son is now 14, so I'm trying to teach him some mathematics, which is not that successful, but I'm more successful as a growth entrepreneur. But if you think about as a mathematics that if one of these multipliers is 0, the end result is also 0. So you need to have at least somewhat numbers behind all of these four multipliers. Actually, before we start today, I would need some of your help. We have prepared a short questionnaire that we wanted to hear that, okay, which of these multipliers are the most important as from your own perspective? There's no right or wrong answer, but you should go into with your phone to www.menti.com and insert the code 55109764. And while you do that, there's 4 questions. What is from your own perspective, if you would have 100%, what is the most important multiplier? Let's use some time. You got it in, right? Zero can't be anything. We will reveal these results in the end of the event. When Riku's ready, we are ready. You are the benchmark. Okay, so you can end it up with your own time now. But today we will hear some inspirational speeches from these 4 different multipliers. Real life stories, the fuck-ups, probably some success stories from the growth entrepreneur to another. And I hope that you guys will enjoy the fabulous program today that have been set for you. We are super delighted that you all have taken this time today. We have 3 hours. We have a full house today, and we have some virtual members also joining us here today. The idea is to get some new tricks and learn from the keynotes and discussions, and of course find new connections. And this is all actually free for you. And thanks for that is because of our great partners. So we have worked already for some while with Technology Industries of Finland, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Springwest, and Business Finland. Let's have a round of applause for the great partners we have here. Still a few words about Boardman Grow. Boardman Grow is a network for all growth companies and entrepreneurs who have the will to share and learn from the others, like we are doing today. Our mission is to spread the growth culture and make sure that the entrepreneurs are never left alone, so you can have always a sparring partner from here. If you're not a member yet, I would urge you to do that, and you can apply through Boardman Grow website, boardmangrow.fi, and easy access. And I can say from my own experience that it surely gives more than it takes. So I think that's a good advice all of you. If you want to share some thoughts today in the social media, please do so, #Boardman Grow, and we will also do a very extensive social media act today by Juuli, so thanks for that. And Karoliina, yeah. In top of the amazing speakers today, we will have some also speed networking, the moment you all been waiting for. And let's try to also save some time for the questions after the discussions if we have time. So, and for all the virtual listeners and watchers, so you can also put into your chat some questions, and I will be following those carefully. But without further ado, I would like to kickstart the event, Growth Multipliers. But actually, one more thing. After the event, we will have some time also to have a discussions and maybe enjoy a class or two here in Innovation Home. And actually, thanks for the Innovation Home for hosting us here. It looks great again. But without further ado, I would like to invite our first guests here. And the first is about the Ben Selby. Ben Selby operates as a CFO and Deputy CEO at Spinnova. He has extensive experience in investment banking, capital markets, investor relations and finance, and he will guide us through the market multiplier actually with Riku Mäkelä, Senior Director Global Initiatives at Business Finland, who's a true market maker. Ben is also an enthusiastic sailor. If he has time, he will go and enjoy our great archipelago. Thank you. Welcome, Ben and Riku. Stage is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sampo. Ben, it's a pleasure to be here with you, with wonderful audience in the presence and then also online. So to kickstart, I guess everybody doesn't know exactly everything about Spinnova. So can you give a short story about what do you do? Why do you do it?
Thanks, Riku, and it's great to be here as well. Well, to give an example, Spinnova is addressing and is a technology company that's addressing some of the biggest challenges related to sustainability in the fashion industry, which accounts for about, let's say, 5% of global emissions. And we're doing that through a technology that we've invented and developed and that we are now selling that produces more sustainable textile fibers, which can be used as an ingredient in clothing and other uses. So as an example, this is actually a suit that's made using Spinnova fiber.
Oh yeah?
Feels natural, right? Yeah. And importantly, it's as well as having the sustainability credentials, it actually feels like the type of fibers that you want to have, replacing things like cotton, and can use multiple different raw materials in the process, like wood or other kind of waste materials like textile waste and agricultural waste.
All right. So then, how do you define your market? This first session is about market.
Exactly.
But in my mind, based on, for example, Business Finland has more than 100 experts in 40 countries giving market advice and helping to open doors there locally. And usually when we talk about market, it's a country or it's a customer segment or something like that. But what is market for you?
Yeah, for us, the market are the technology customers. But to kind of get to defining those, we had to go through a kind of real process of understanding the real value chain of what's in your clothes. So, of course, the kind of end value point is what a consumer is prepared to pay when they're purchasing a hoodie or a t-shirt, and are they prepared to pay a premium for having something that has Spinnova fiber in it. So we have to understand that first of all, and that's also kind of quite interesting and challenging because it's a new market and there aren't, we're obviously developing it and bringing proof points to the market. Then we sort of have to move back and understand the rest of the supply chain and where value is taken out of it to kind of get to where our customers can be. So we also work very closely with then the apparel brands. So we've had collaborations with, for example, Adidas, H&M, Bestseller Group, Marimekko, Halti, and so on. And they have obviously the incentive that they want to bring products to the market which consumers want to buy, and obviously there's a demand for more sustainable solutions, but they also have their own kind of pressures and reasons for this, that they need to improve their own sustainability credentials and meet their own emissions targets. So that's why they're looking also for new solutions in terms of the materials in the clothing. Then we go a sort of step further back in the supply chain and understanding, okay, how are the clothes actually made? And the brands themselves are not actually producing the clothing. Typically, they're outsourcing that, and there's a whole kind of network of different companies that are actually making yarn, making fabrics, and making the actual end garments. So we have to understand that and which bits of value are being extracted at each stage. And that's really where we then see one opportunity for our customer base. So, and because we're selling kind of relatively capital intensive technology, it needs to be then those customers that are at a sufficient scale that they can support that. And we've then been able to kind of narrow down out of that list of supply chain partners to the brands, those who can be our customers. So that's one segment for us on the customer side. Then we actually look upstream as well. So there's also value that's created for people who want to increase the value in their raw materials. So those that are producing wood pulp, which can be a raw material for us, they can also be the ones that want to actually invest in fiber production. And we have then a partnership with Suzano, who's the world's largest paper pulp producer. But we also then define that there's another segment there of other players who have access to raw materials like agricultural waste and textile waste and so on. So that's how we've kind of defined the market, but it really involved quite an extensive mapping process of where's the value in the whole chain.
So if we still continue on this part, so how much have you changed the course over the years? So how would you define that? Because this sounds like you didn't know in the beginning the details.
Yeah, so we have recently refined the strategy to focus on the technology sales, and that's because it's where we have the expertise and where the idea for kind of producing this sustainable fiber comes from, and where the real know-how in our business is. Before that we were exploring, so should we participate more broadly in the value chain? Should we do own production? Should we even kind of be involved in making yarns and fabrics ourselves? But we concluded that we can bring most value for our stakeholders by focusing on the technology side.
All right, so Adidas is one of your success cases. So 2 years ago they came out with their first products with your fibers in them. How did you end up in succeeding in that deal? Who made the deal and how did it happen?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting story, and I think it kind of comes a bit to these different growth multipliers and maybe what we would consider is the most kind of important. So we have a clear solution to a clear problem in the fashion industry, and so we had a very good story to tell, and we were able to then create a lot of visibility through communications and PR. And actually Spinnova has had then a lot of incoming interest from the brands who are looking for these kind of innovations to solve their problems. So the original kind of touch point was essentially incoming as a result of the communications work that we'd done. But also by getting out there and being active with different organizations. So we spent time, specifically with an organization called Fashion for Good. So I think it shows that it's important to, really look at different participants in the industries that you're working in. It doesn't have to be as straightforward as going direct to the customer, but kind of building up, those kind of networks. And then that's how the original kind of incoming came. And then it was then a journey when we were in touch with their innovation team to then bring the final hoodie to the, actually being available for consumers. And that was a lot of, work with our founders and with our commercial team at the time.
So then, in my mind, you probably didn't have a ready market there for your technology-based product or offering. So how would you define your company? Have you been a market maker or market shaper on this path, or did others do it for you?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting question, and we have had to shape the market as we've gone along. So, certainly creating a market for the technology, which is something different, but also shaping the kind of end market for the clothing that has Spinnova fiber in it, and that has required then a lot of work with these brands and other players. And I think one interesting kind of thought point is that when you're in this kind of growth stage as well, you have to be selective about who you're partnering with, because you have limited resources and you want to get as much visibility and build your kind of commercial momentum as efficiently as possible based on the work that you're doing. So actually this kind of the first brands that brought products to consumers were more in the kind of mid-tier than the kind of Adidas size. So it was actually Bergans of Norway, an outdoor brand that brought the first products. So it shows that be selective, work with the kind of players who can be even more nimble and agile and help you get into the market quickly, even if in the end you of course also want to work with the bigger brands in the long run.
Yeah, as a kind of a short advertisement break here. So your jacket, I like the feeling of it. So can you buy jackets or the garments to make jackets like this?
You can't buy this specific kind of one, but we have, I guess, had a number of collaborations out in where products are in the market, and at the minute there is a T-shirt on sale with Jack and Jones, which is a bestseller brand. So if you want to get your hands on something, then that's in the market at the moment.
So Jack and Jones.
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm flying to New York tomorrow, so
okay.
I believe I
might
be able to find it there. Yeah?
Very good.
Right, cool.
You can get it in Helsinki too.
Also here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. More boring.
Yeah.
So we had 4 pieces of equation here that Sampo shared. It was market, product, team, and funding. So in Spinnova's case, when you look years back and your path, what has been the most important from this equation? Can you pick one, or do you have to combine several of them? So how would you define weight between these ingredients?
Yeah, well, I guess I had a little bit of a head start on that thanks to the kind of online quiz, but I would say that it starts with for Spinnova, it started with the market need and then having a product that was a clear solution for that. So I would say those were the 2 most critical things, and together maybe 70%. And then I think once you have that and you have the story, then you can get the right team, and then the financing kind of follows after that once you've shown that there's a product that can be sold.
Then I remember one old rule of thumb about kind of innovating and creating a technology-based product, so that 20% of the budget goes to the technology development and 80% goes later to other things like marketing and sales and maybe establishing manufacturing and so on. How is it for Spinnova? Where has the money gone?
Yeah, well, that's actually very interesting. I would say it's been probably the opposite for Spinnova. So we have followed maybe more the kind of Finnish engineering company path of investing in development, and I think we've been lucky enough that we haven't had to spend so much on kind of communications and so on, because there has been such an interest in what we've been doing that that's built itself so far at least.
Okay, so then last years have been about sustainability. When looking at your company, did this start from really understanding a market need or from engineering dream of doing something based on existing know-how? Or how did this start originally?
Yeah, so our co-founders came from, and the company was a spin-off from VTT, so two physicists, and the original kind of dream came from how to compare how a spider spins its web to how kind of cellulosic fiber flows can move. So I think it started off from that perspective, but then a very quick realization that this could have really interesting applications in the textile industry.
Yeah, then when looking at markets, you have some collaborations with foreign partners. How is your own market reach? Do you have people in different locations around the world, or are everybody in Finland? So how have you built up the organization?
The majority of our people are in Finland, and it kind of comes back to how we've mapped the market. That when we think about our customers for the technology, it's a number of kind of very large business to business discussions, which obviously we can kind of handle more by traveling rather than having permanent presence in other locations at the moment. Of course, as we ramp up, it's likely that we will need more locations globally, for example, for supporting on the ramp up of the technology in factories that are being built.
Okay, then you became public at one stage.
Yeah.
How did that help you in becoming believable in foreign markets and by the partners' viewpoint?
I think that was a big thing for Spinnova, and beyond the kind of financial benefits of raising capital, it helped us to really build our brand and make it more visible also in Finland. So we actually have one of the highest rates of retail share ownership, so about 36,000 shareholders. So I think that's more than even Marimekko has in terms of number of shareholders, as an example. So that was important in building kind of the brand also as an employer, so helping with recruitment. And then, as you say, kind of building credibility with international partners as well, as a listed company showing a strong balance sheet. And even some of our partners participated in the IPO as investors, so Adidas and Echo, for example, investing at that time. So it was much more than just the financial as well.
Okay, I was just going to ask that, can we see these? But they came in, yeah, good timing. So here are some of the key takeaways collected beforehand, and I think you have touched these nicely. I'd like to ask you about the number 3, because I have seen, I've been working in several countries, and I've seen too many cases of Finnish companies partnering up with the wrong type of a partner or choosing a wrong type of a sales channel partner in certain market, and they have been locked in for lengthy time and they haven't been able to proceed. So how have you made sure that you are partnering with the right partners?
Yeah, well, I mentioned one which was about how kind of getting products to consumers quickly was about going with a more nimble kind of player at the time. So that was important, because if you go with big players, I mean, yes, you can get more kind of sales in the end, but they have a lot of their own requirements and might not move as quickly. I think we also did a kind of very clear mapping against the kind of values and the fit of the product to kind of see which are the brands which are most relevant to engage with as part of this market building, and really looking at what their sustainability strategies are and how they fit. So that was one way of doing it. And then when we think about the technology sales side and the more industrial partnership side, then we ended up working with Suzano, because it was clear that they really shared this kind of very ambitious vision to shake up an established industry, and were perhaps prepared to go quicker and put more investments into it than others. So that's how we ended up with them.
Okay, thank you. So now a bonus question to finish this. What would be one thing you would like to share about the markets and how to look at the markets for all the entrepreneurs in the room?
As in our markets or generally?
Any market in general.
Well, I think it's probably what I still have here, that really understand the different segments. So it's not enough to just think about who your customers are, but what's the value that they're selling on. I think that's one of the key takeaways, at least from the Spinnova case, as an ingredient product. Okay, thank you. And now, to close this up, I'd like to take a selfie of us so that everybody there is waving, because I'm taking a photo of this nice jacket with Spinnova fibers and also wool jacket here, so that now everybody please wave here for Spinnova fibers in the picture. Thank you. So I'll share that with you. Thank you.
Stay for a while here. pretty hard to read all the comments here, but we will share that with you, of course, after the event. But if there's one question for Ben, anybody wants to, back in the room, Pia. Just a minute, we'll give you a mic.
Hi, Pia Rautakorpi from Arvova. Thank you for great talks and presentation. And I particularly like the way you describe the supply chain that you have to deal with. And my question is that do you have any particular structure and system that you, when you lead the value in that value network that you have, because it surely did not sound too simple.
Yeah, it took a lot of analysis and looking at kind of third-party information and kind of essentially building up, okay, if you take an end garment, what percentage comes from you know, of cost actually comes from the fiber, what percentage comes from all the steps beyond that, and you can actually build that up and see. I mean, actually, in this sector, the vast majority comes from the marketing and the retail costs, and actually very little comes from the cost of the actual garment production, which is then interesting when you think about how it should actually be relatively easy for more sustainable clothing to be available, because you know, even if you would double the cost of the raw material, that would only be actually a matter of cents out of a garment cost.
All right. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Riku.
Thank you.
All right, the next one up, we have Mr. Jarkko Antila, CEO at Kuva. He has demonstrated the history of successfully initiating, fundraising, implementing, and exiting high-tech startups. With a global perspective gained from working across several markets, he's also people-oriented and firmly believes in the power of teamwork, and he's also an enthusiastic wall climber. But today he's here to open more thoughts around financing Multiplier with Mr. Aki Soudunsaari, one of our partners, CEO at Spring West. Stage is yours, guys.
Welcome. Terve. Hello, Jarkko, and thank you, Samppa. As said, my name is Aki Soudunsaari. I'm an optimist, serial entrepreneur, and a CEO at Spring West, which is working on with kind of a Finnish growth companies with growth investment services. Jarkko, what does Kuva Space do, and at what stage is the company right now?
Well, thanks for the question, and hello everybody. Kuva Space, we're a space company, but we are actually all about improving life on Earth. So we're not like doing space exploration or anything like this. But what we're building is a network of satellites that monitor the Earth and provide information on the resources of the Earth, like plant species, biodiversity, farming, all that kind of methods, but also safety and security. So if you want to know anything, what's happening anywhere, we will be the ones that will be providing that information. So that's surely what we do.
So you're putting satellites to space and getting information outside from the space, from about Earth.
Yeah, that's right. So we're building like small satellites about the size of a microwave oven. We have a special camera technology that's developed here in Finland to see, you know, things that others can't see. And we're building a constellation of about 100 satellites, which means that you can measure the globe 2-3 times a day, anywhere you are. And then we also are building an analytics platform, so we produce a lot of data. So we're not in an image selling business, like trying to dump a lot of satellite images into the world, but actually then to provide the insights that we find from our measurements to the customers.
And what stage is the company right now? Kind of the typical pre-seed, seed, A round, B round, C round, if we're talking about growth funding?
I'm not sure if we are typical in that perspective. We were founded already in 2016 originally, but we changed our strategy after like 4 years of building satellites to others commercially. And so from 2020, we kind of went into this path. And in 21, we kind of raised our first VC-related funding round, and then the next one last September. So, depends on who you ask, whether it was a late seed or early A, but somewhere between maybe.
Super exciting. There's a lot of discussion nowadays about these so-called dual-use companies, like in the last 6 months, 12 months. Dual-use companies mean that there are solutions available for civilian use, whether it's biodiversity data or whatnot, but also for defensive technologies or defensive industries and so on. Do you consider yourself as a dual-use company in this way?
Yeah, we are a dual-use company by definition and also mentally, I guess. It's fair to say that about 2.5 years ago, we didn't have like defense-related topics that high on our agenda. So it was purely climate change-related, risk mitigation, food security kind of information. But then the world changed, and we, of course, started looking at, what can we do in this field with our technology? And naturally, there's quite a bit of things that we can do. But actually, like even before that decision, if you look at the definition of a satellite company, we're a dual-use company.
Yeah. And how do you see, has the market changed regarding dual-use companies? So I believe that there's a big change happening or happened already. What do you think about that? Any comments?
Yeah, definitely. Let's say about 2 years ago, when we were discussing with investors, there were a lot of impact investors that said that they heard the name defense and then backed away immediately. But that's not the case anymore. A lot of those funds, there's still some funds that do that very strictly, but it has been changing, so it has been easier to discuss with VCs. And also the rules actually for the kind of defense-related investments in the fund has probably not been actually that strict. So it has left some room to interpretation, and now they are interpreting it in a new way. And also for us, I mean, we are not like we are not making attack systems, but we are more to provide preventive surveillance information, which would actually prevent escalation. So we don't see how kind of preventing escalations is, for example, away from fighting climate change. It can happen at the same time.
Yeah. The theme for us here is these growth multipliers and the focus on funding for us here with the 50-minute discussion. So what kind of a funding path does Kuva Space have? Like, what are the big steps if you describe to the audience, and then perhaps how would it look like in the future?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, our path is a little bit special. We're founded in 2016 by Reactor, the IT software consultancy company, and then our founders. And from that on, we were living on revenue, mostly from European Space Agency and related companies. So we kind of developed our satellite capabilities with customer money, but it was not a growing thing. So when we decided then to change our strategy and go into this growth path and start building the satellites to ourselves and becoming a digital service company, we needed funding to do that. And then at that point, we kind of got the first VCs in. And started building now the first commercial satellite that would provide us this needed digital info, which is now we're going to launch in July. So it's going to be an interesting next few months. But then also we're working in space and we're building satellites and it's kind of it takes investments, and the timing is such that if you order some subsystems to a satellite, it can take a year, but you need to design the thing before that. So, if you want to get anything new out into the space, it's like a 1.5 year process at least, probably more. So you need also kind of funding to be able to kind of look at the next step in the company. So it's kind of all about being able then to start scaling and bringing the service platform into the market. And but it's all like milestone based in a way that, okay, satellite up, first customers, then new funding, then more satellites, more people, so on.
I could imagine that if you're putting satellites to the space, there's no room for pivoting all the time every 3 months like what you're doing. So it takes a little bit engineering kind of to figure out what to do.
True.
You describe this company also as a kind of a green transition company in a way. It's a deep tech company for sure. So those buzzwords in a way are not so good things when you're talking about funding, in my experience. Because from a funding point of view, the typical VCs are kind of fine-tuned for fast-growing SaaS companies or whatnot, and their kind of whole theme that how do they work, investment thesis on how do they work. But what are your experience on VCs investing in deep tech or green transition companies? Any learnings?
Yeah, I think that is also has been evolving quite a bit, and so in Finland there are VCs that are concentrating on deep tech, whatever field that is, and in Finland overall, kind of the understanding of like technology development, we're quite technology like academic oriented country, I guess. I don't know what's the portion of like VTT and Aalto and other university startups versus others, but I assume that is rather high. So there's actually a lot of understanding, and if you look at like on a European scale, even like space as a topic, which is kind of deep tech usually, categorized in that part as well. There are several new funds that have been established over the last year and a half, and also new deep tech funds. So I think there's more money and more understanding now than there was before on like long-term development of companies that make real change, and also this impact, like the green transition companies. So the stopping climate change is a physical thing, so you can't do it only by software. So you actually have to interact with the surroundings to make an impact. So they are often also quite long-term investments.
And regarding the long-term investments, many of these green transition and deep tech companies, it takes a lot of time to send those satellites to space and so on. I think one of the crucial things nowadays especially nowadays, is building the funding package for companies. A lot of first-time founders or second-time founders think about raising equity from VCs or family offices or whatnot, and then they run with the money they get from those. But then a lot of companies nowadays, especially, they build the whole package. So there's the equity part, there's the grants and Business Finland and ELY and European Union fundings, and then there's the kind of the other type of capital available there. I think based on my research, you've done an excellent job last fall. You built a 5 million equity round. You had a 10 million from Business Finland as a kind of a special piloting loan or piloting funding. And then you had additional grants as well. Can you describe how did you build that?
Yeah, it was, let's say 22 was an interesting year. I think 23 was also an interesting year, but we were actually fundraising at the end of 22. And we had a lead investor, and everything was like looking good. And I still remember I was walking down the aisle on the first day of Slush in 22. And the potential lead investor called me up and said that okay, their main LPs have stopped investing to anything, so they need to pull out. And we were like in the negotiate or like almost like a signing stage. And
enjoy Slush anyway.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, Slush is starting. Well, maybe now I'm in a good place to start like looking for other people. But at the same time, like everybody started locking down. Like VCs started like taking this tactical break of funding anything to see like how the world is going, and things started crashing down, and it became evident quite quickly that we needed to reshape the whole round somehow to drop the valuations and the risk level and find new people, and how we then ended up like structuring it strategically was to drop the amount of capital we were raising, but then try to approach like Business Finland in this case for a significant loan to back that up. And then Business Finland kind of coupled the minimum capital we need to raise, to a certain level in order to get the loan at the end. And then we started structuring a smaller round and took also then Springvest into play. And then we had, some grants from European Space Agency on the side. So it was kind of a complex package, like, 4 different kinds of fundings coming together.
But it's similar with Solar Foods, for example. I think they've raised 140, 130 million in total funding, but 40% of that is equity. Sulapak, for example, similar case, only about 40% of the total funding coming from equity funding point of view. So when there are these grants and different instruments available, people should be wise and kind of conscious about how to get those as well. So it's always a puzzle, like you build it from different corner pieces and so on. Yeah. What hasn't worked or what didn't work when you have been raising? Not perhaps the last round, but earlier and so on. So what are the kind of key hindrances, if you can say that, when fundraising?
Well, a couple of things quite specific to us. I have to tell a little bit about the climate fund of Finland, which is now, I guess, restructuring. But we did a lot of work with them already on them, like funding us, and we did some due diligence and all these like climate impact calculations. And then it turned out that because we are a dual-use company, they cannot fund. But that happened like maybe a little bit too late, to my taste in these discussions, that actually somebody figured that out. But so that kind of was ruled out then.
So it was a technical problem in a way. Like when you're going through grants and whatnot, you should kind of first figure out, are you suitable or kind of are you eligible to do it?
Yeah. It kind of happened at the end, more or less. Yeah. And then one thing which is specific for, I guess, a deep tech company, but especially, I guess, for space company, is that you, like I mentioned, you asked like which funding round is it, seed or A? So the reason why it's not clear is that the amount of money we need, to take our company forward is like more on the A level, but then where we are in the market, the proof points are more on the seed level because we haven't yet launched the first satellite to actually like prove that the product works as it should and it starts scaling. So all we have a lot of customer traction and a lot of a big funnel, and we have like already like a 7 million backlog for various things, but still the actual like scalable product that we are going after has no real proof that it delivers what it should. So that's why the investors are a little bit confused sometimes that, okay, you are too far into our funds or you are not there yet.
Yeah, it's always a difficult thing to kind of really find the right moment to enter a kind of a new VC and so on. That's why you need to go a lot, shop around a lot in order to get the right position in the right kind of a thesis or approach with the right stage and so on. So it's always difficult.
True.
Any elaborations on these 3 key takeaways you've described earlier? You want to explain the story around these or
well, I think I've touched upon more or less everything. I mean, resilience, of course, is like the, if funding, plans and whatever goes a little bit sideways, you just have to regroup and find a way to do, to make the things work. And, the whole technology development takes a lot of time, so there's a lot of like things that you fail along the way, but you just have to find a way through, and it takes resilience. I think that's the best word to describe it. Dual use, we discussed. I actually did listen to your podcast a while ago.
GoFundry.com.
Yes. And heard Timo Ahopel, the Lifeline Ventures founder, said that he would found a company to defense or dual use if he would now be like a student. So yeah, I think that's an untapped possibility, and that's changing in Finland. The international mindset didn't mention that too much, but we are naturally like an international company because we are literally looking at the whole world. So there's like, you know, Finland, the partners in Finland, commercial partners in Finland, they are a good sort of test bed. But really, like, what you have to do is go out there, and we've like established now a subsidiary in the US and looking at those markets. But the majority of the bigger customers in our funnel are from, you know, Brazil, Far East Asia, Africa, some European countries as well, in addition to United States. So, yeah.
So I would change this third one into intergalactic mindset.
Yeah,
from the start.
true.
In your case.
That's right.
All right. One of my favorite sayings is that regarding growth or Boardman Grow is that the mindset of growth, the growth mindset. Carol Dweck's kind of learnings or research early in the beginning. But I have this saying, or I don't have it, I've stole it. Whether you think that you can't, whether you think that you can or that you can't, you're usually right. Same goes with kind of growth and building growth companies as well. There's a lot of growth mindset needed here. Thank you, Jarkko.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys. We have a room for one question if anybody wants to shoot. Now I need to choose right here, gentleman over there. We have a microphone, just a minute. And I spare your question for the break.
Jouni Honkaura, hi. One question on sort of ecosystem, because following up that there has been sort of like a clustering effort by Business Finland, and there's Kuva Space and there's iSize there, and a lot of sort of, how much do you sort of, is there an ecosystem in this space in Finland now, and how it's affecting your activities?
That's an excellent question. I think it's still in a very early phase. There's like maybe quite a limited amount of like genuine cooperation within the companies. There probably will be more in the future. You know, we know each other, and we are in you know, in different forums. We are there together, and maybe, you know, comment, you know, the space law of Finland renewals together. So some level, but I wouldn't yet call it like a vivid ecosystem. But it's definitely growing, and I think, like, you know, like iSize of course has pulled a lot of investment and interest to Finland, and people also. So we have already seen like people moving between those companies. So I think that's like enriching the know-how base in the whole kind of space economy in Finland.
So there's space for cooperation.
There is much space.
Thank you.
Still
I'll get my
space
coat.
left.
I'll get my coat.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's quite amazing to think that now the dual-use companies are something that people are really looking to. I think about 4 years back, nobody would say that aloud. But hey, thank you, guys. It was really, really good. Next one we have is Mr. Antti Ujainen, the lead strategist and chairman of the board at NØRR3, and he's a serial, not serious entrepreneur and has founded multiple successful marketing startups along his 20-year career. He's also a great family man, an enthusiastic skier, but today Antti is here to guide us through the product and service multiplier together with Teemu Polo from Head of Entrepreneurship and SME Topics at Technology Industries of Finland. Welcome, guys.
Wow, what a great event so far. Excellent topics and interesting, though very tangible things, aren't they? Like
they are.
Sending something to space and weaving new fabrics and so forth.
Yeah, I don't know what we are going to talk about after that.
Does anybody have any idea? Maybe we talk today something about marketing. It's less tangible.
That's a good idea.
But there's some numbers involved. What did get you involved and excited about marketing?
Yeah, nice to meet you all. My name is Antti Ujainen, and I'm coming from a company called NØRR3, which is an insight and media agency. And I have a long history, 25 years in marketing, working 35 years in more or less family business, starting with my family working in making clothes for kids, starting 76 or something like that, and started at that company when I was 12 years old, making all kinds of stuff what you can do at the factory, and nobody could use 286 computers at our factory, so I did at 12 years old. I got 70 marks per hour, at that time from computer works, and 10 marks from cleaning. So that was the difference. So I kind of knew that the computers are the thing, and they didn't know anything about the marketing, neither did I, and so we had to invent some kind of like a postal marketing at that time. And from then on, I think that has just sucked me the whole marketing industry, and maybe the final burst was Helsinki School of Economics, nowadays called Aalto, where I was actually today for the first time in, I don't know, 15 years or so. There was this Sanoma campus and a lot of professors around the world, and that was also very inspiring stuff. And kind of there I was thinking about this session, that this all comes at the end together, like all the marketers and all the Finns are actually working together for a longer time than we are actually knowing. And that's why we should keep on doing what we are, and I'm keep on doing the marketing stuff, and maybe someday I will be good at that too.
Well, of course, you need a lot of practice.
Yes.
But you are on of course going in the right direction. But however, we are supposed to touch some topics of products and services as well today. Mm-hmm. So in order to market something, you need to know what you are going to market.
Yes.
That's so how do you know what is a concrete thing that you can market? How do you evolve if somebody comes with an idea?
Yeah, the data is a pretty good starting point. I come up with an example from yesterday. I was meeting with all the biggest media agencies in Finland, and I was kind of surprised that we actually, not even 2024, we don't measure the marketing amounts Finnish companies put in international markets. So we don't have a kind of a KPI for that how much do we do marketing inside the Finland and outside the Finland. So we know that Supercell is putting a lot of money outside the Finland, but how about the other companies? So maybe there's a single examples that Nokia put 20%, maybe 60%. Does anyone know how much went to the international marketing? Yes, no one knows. And Nokia was the biggest company in Finland. So if we would have a ratio about that and compare that for the Nordic countries, for example, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, and so on, we could follow that and kind of like develop that ratio all the time, because we know that it's less than 2% or something. And that's not going to work for Finns, right? So if the Puuilo and all the other companies, they are rather expanding in Finland than going outside, while as Bauhaus and all the others are coming to Finland. That's not how this should work.
So is it easy to complain that nobody is outside of Finland is buying our stuff, but we never market anything there?
Yeah, I think the key here is to go in international markets, and that's why I like this session and the startups in general, that they are doing exactly that stuff. The problem there is that they've been sold too early.
But you have this. You touched already on the topic of numbers.
Yeah.
So thinking about if somebody has a product,
yeah,
marketing is not so cheap.
Yeah. Well,
you guys are great, but
it's very cheap actually.
Aha.
In Finland, for example, TV marketing is the best advertising channel, and it's cheaper than it's 1/3 of the price in Sweden. The TV marketing, and
I didn't know that.
And people are not utilizing that as much as it should be.
Okay.
And that's if we talk about numbers and whatever product we have, we are easily able to kind of solve the problem that who's going to buy it and what kind of NPS is it having. The single formula would be a brand funnel. And I explain you because this is very important that the brand funnel comes from top of mind, awareness, consideration, preference, NPS, and usage. Right. So there's a funnel and there's a conversion rates between these funnels. And these kind of numbers for any product this room has, and they are marketing in any country in the world, we are able to form a brand funnel in, let's say, a couple of days, even in a one day. For example, there's a survey called Norstat Express. If you type 5 questions there before you launch anything, and you have A and B version. Let's say you have A and B copies in that ad. Through this service, you are able to get in 30 minutes 300 respondents from any country in the world. 300 in 1 hour. And that cost is 1,000 to 2,000 euros. And usually our brand campaigns in Finnish companies, they are like, let's say, 300 to 800,000 per each campaign. But no one is using those. So think about it. If you can put the A/B testing of your creative and get results in 30 minutes, and it costs 2,000 euros, and you could get 10% improved results, you could probably save like 80,000 from that campaign, or to think it upside down, put 80,000 more in marketing with the right message.
Or perhaps even, say, putting 500,000 into R&D and figuring out it doesn't match the expectations. So it's when talking about the products and services, it's then also figuring out that what are these tools for, and it's not only when you have something ready, right? It's something that you can start along the path to kind of say refine, to steer, maybe even pivot the product.
Yeah, there's actually one like international this kind of survey process going on that we're gonna measure different this kind of like brand funnel things for the 40 business areas around the world, and that could be something that could be done in every 3 months. That the purpose of this is to get business into Finland and check the kind of the pulse in different markets from the different segments, how they're doing. So these kind of surveys are very useful and easy to produce. That's kind of the easiest part to start for any kind of company. And I just scratched the data surface, that what we wanted to talk about.
Yeah, so okay, so then you have the product and service, you are in the market, you get attraction, people get kind of figure out that, hey, this is a great thing.
Yeah, well,
competitors figure it as well.
Yeah, and NPS would be the second one to follow. That's something I follow all the time. And we started our current media and insight company 5 years ago, and the NPS may be the only measurement I've been following. And right now, last January, it was 78, and we have 50 like B2B customers. So that's pretty good, but it's not perfect. It should be something like 90, because when the NPS gets higher and higher, it brings you not linearly, but progressively more business all the time, because they start speaking together, the customers. So that's very important, the NPS for any kind of business, right?
That's an interesting thought, again related to utilizing it already in the early phase, but then on the later phase to kind of figure out what kind of marketing is working on the topic. But say when this starts to be a hit, the new startup or new product service, the competitors will also look into it and start developing something of their own.
Yeah, they start. So the innovation should be constant, and in every service and product, I think we are constantly innovating. Right now, for example, in my table was 1 year ago we invented our own survey to get every 3 months like a media usage of Finnish consumers, that how they are using. We have a dashboard and 19 different filters. We can check that how the people are using different kind of media channels in overall level and in micro levels, right? And that's something that last 40 years, there has been data which has been available since 12 to 18 months. That's 12 to 18 months old data from Kantar. Kantar is a great company, but that didn't fit us, that product. So we invented that by ourselves and used it in Nosto panel to get it and build a dashboard. And now we can follow it. And we're actually giving that almost for free for customers, so they can do it as well. Because we are not the kind of the rainmakers moving the different big 1.5 billion media industry in Finland, that how they should make it. But if they would use that by themselves as well, they could kind of like steal our money, but that's okay because the whole business would go into
Yeah, you have plenty.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's indeed get people kind of growing into this kind of use of these tools and then you can drop your experience into the game and
that's kind of the easy things to do. Now we can go a little bit deeper, and I would like to say a couple of things about the buzzwords AI today and
nobody has said AI yet.
Yeah, I did.
It's about time.
Yeah. So I will start again from Finland and actually from whole Nordics. That whole Nordics, McKinsey asked that from top leaders that who has been using AI in the past 6 months, and take a guess how many percentage of CXO levels in a bigger companies have used by themselves AI software, any kind of
10%.
40. So 40% have been using now, and it's kind of like, it feels like a decade ago the AI came, right? And a different kind of things. But if they are not using, they are not able to kind of like spread that to their companies. That's what I believe firmly. And I think it would be about the time to send this message by Mr. Orpo, who's never in the front of the microphone or TV cameras, but he could be the one in Finland and come into the picture and say that use AI. And that would be something, some kind of start. But that's something we are now working on heavily, that I think in 2 years' time, we can push a button and the machine will generate a optimal media strategy for us, and we can bring it to the companies. And at the end of the day, maybe 3 to 4 years, the buyers can by themselves without the media agent. So I'm kind of in a business making myself useless. And that's, I think, a pretty good one, pretty good thing. I believe in that kind of like a business philosophy that let's bring something that others can use to make Finland better again, greater again, like Trump would say.
That's a good learning, but it all relies on the data and measurements and stuff that you collect, so you can then start refining and finding out how things work and so forth.
Yeah.
I think that's a good kind of extra takeaway on the kind of process part in order to refine this kind of products. They are kind of trying to hint us that we are out of time soon. I think we could easily use some half an hour more, but you were asked about key takeaways in advance, and there's a build micro and macro view of the market.
Yeah. Well, I can follow through, walk this through, and I think if we start from any business and globally from anything, like I think we need this Kuva guy. Kuva space guy here, so that let's take a macro view on any business or any particular segment or anything, and well, we already did the micro. We took a segment view on something. We can't understand what is around that segment, and if you have two different segments and they overlap each other, they usually tend to kind of suck each other. So that's why you need a macro view of the market or the consumers or the people or the data or anything. After that only, you are able to build like a micro view on things. And that's I think, the key thing in everything, in all business, all marketing, all branding, or especially branding. You are not able to, let's say Vattenfall, for example, last couple of 3 to 4 years, they made a turnaround by, they branded their company in whole Europe, so to say. They're working in whole Europe. They branded it to renewable energy company, right? And they sucked in their like the brand feeling what they were. Now they are in the top 10 most respected brands in Sweden. They did it by understanding how the world is changing and by changing everything. But actually, what they did change was pretty much marketing. They can't really go in a 5 years' time and turn their plans like into something else.
They're still in the same business, so it's nothing kind of.
They are really in the same business, but they did the change. So that's something we should learn and do it for the Finnish companies as well. Follow the NPS, that's crucial. If the NPS is minus marks, you can't grow, really. There's no business. Let's follow that. And I have never actually got any funding. I'm not sure if I'm a little bit jealous about that or not. Probably not. But I haven't done that. I have actually all the time sold something so that I could get money to innovate constantly. And that's not the right way to do it probably, but that's my way, and kind of like it until I get somebody to kind of overtake my idea how to grow faster and help others faster, maybe.
Yeah, but that's also the kind of idea that, say, validation of product and market, whether it kind of hits the market or not, is whether somebody actually pays for it.
Yeah,
you can create all sorts of stuff.
This
in
goes
between,
together.
But exactly. So somebody needs to like it, but they need to like it enough to actually pay for it.
Yeah. If you start like innovating something, and if you immediately start selling that, and you realize that no one is actually buying that, then we improve and innovate, and then we go and ask that how did you feel about us and the product and the service, and they said great. Then we know we are in the right track. So that's why I kind of brought these two into the field. Sorry about this time.
Gorilla comes. It's about our time. Thanks Antti. Thanks.
Thank you.
One question. We have one question from the virtual audience actually about the metrics. You talked about the funnel and the different metrics there.
Yes.
What about the NPS? It was asked that it's in about a later stage more. The NPS is very good.
Yeah.
But if you are an industrialist, you're not a B2C company.
Yeah.
What would be the metrics that you would suggest for in the beginning of the funnel?
You mean like a bigger B2B companies?
Yeah. No, I mean we are talking about growth companies here. How do you, for example, you mentioned top of mind or awareness?
Yeah, I think.
How do you do that?
Let's take all those that brand funnel, and let's decide that which are the most important KPIs on that. I think it's a startup, or is it a B2C or B2B company or whatever. Everybody can use those. I think the NPS goes to everyone. That if you're a startup and let's say if you have 1,000 customers there, it's easier to kind of get a valid NPS that. Then let's say it's 50. Okay, we know it's 50. If you have 10 different customers, how about if you then get that's a 52? Well, that's a figure too. Then it's pretty accurate that NPS. So I would keep NPS. But what comes to product like let's say awareness for a startup which goes to Germany, for example, that's kind of I would start measuring how the competition in Germany is and their awareness levels. So you always need to compare to your segment where you're working on. If it's a product that no one else is having in the market yet, then it's more complicated. But we will figure out something for that too.
Yeah, so call Antti and get for help for that. Hey, we have a time for one question. Anybody from the audience? It was so clear. Thank you, Antti. How many actually are using NPS in your companies? Right, pretty good. half, 1/3, one, probably. Hey, thank you, Teemu,
Thank you.
and thank you, Antti.
Thank you.
Part of the Boardman Grow network also, we've been organizing successfully together with our partners a sparring groups around different topics. These are super useful for entrepreneurs to jump into a confidential roundtable discussions around pre-chosen topics. Jussi from Boardman Grow, board member, will join the stage and he will open more about the sparring group. So the stage is yours, Jussi.
Quick ad break before you actually get a proper break and some coffee and networking. About our sparring groups. So my name is Jussi Luhtisala. I'm the CEO for a company called NØRR3. We do video recruitment. Been around for 10 years. I'm the third CEO for the company. Joined the company 4 years ago. And then when I joined, this is my first CEO gig. So before that, I ran the digital development at Finnair with a group of extremely talented professionals. Back then, you could have complained to me if Finnair.com wasn't working, but not anymore. That's gone. But when I joined, like I said, this is my first CEO gig. I also had a board position offered to me at that time, and I kind of needed networks to kind of spar topics of kind of around growth and leading companies. And I joined Boardman Grow at that time 4 years ago, and quite quickly then got into the first sparring group, which was of course very topical because it was around SaaS companies, SaaS company internationalization, very topical for us. We are very Finland focused, and my job is to make NØRR3 international, where our growth and opportunities lie. And at that time, I joined the group for focusing on SaaS companies, internationalization, run by Rasmus Nyberg. Super good way of getting a bit more into the deeper discussions. Like Sampa said, events like this are nice. You get a bit of a scratch on the different topics. You get to know some people, but when you want to get into a proper discussions around a topic with similar-minded entrepreneurs, CEOs, board members in a different kind of similar kind of positions, I think these kind of sparring groups are excellent for that. So I joined the SaaS company group first, 22. That ran for a year. We were 8-9 people. A lot of interesting topics. If you work in SaaS, you know that despite what your product is, who your target audience is, what your target market is, many of the topics are very similar. You usually have a product development, you usually have a kind of product ownership side of business. You build a product, you're built around the product, and then you need to sell and market that, typically take care of customers. So whatever you do, very similar topics, and you can compare notes, and I learned a lot, stole a lot of ideas that are implemented today. Then the other group I joined, and I'm still part of, is the kind of strategy into practice. It's just kind of more of a wider topic, and we also have a much more diverse group of companies there that is hosted by the Jussi Leinonen from PwC. And that's quite interesting because it's more about how you communicate strategy, how you live strategy, how you measure impact of strategy. Again, very interesting group of people. Some of them from consulting, some from manufacturing industry. I think I'm the only one from a SaaS company, so we have a very different set of group, which kind of brings out new, interesting ideas. Other groups we've had over the years, been running these now with partners for 2, soon 3 years. There's something around international growth for consultancies, growth through digitalization, board working growth companies, green transition, multiple SaaS groups. 2 new ones are starting now in fall 24. A group around environmental and social responsibility, and another group on strategic competitiveness through international talent. So both hiring internationally, but also using international talent with your companies. So interesting groups. Stay tuned and follow Boardman Grow on LinkedIn and also in online, because we have also new groups kicking off soon. A few practicalities. These groups are free for the members of Boardman Grow and Teknologiateollisuus. Also, non-members are welcome. We want to have a wide group of people participating, but for non-members, these will have a small annual cost for participation, which is actually exactly the same number as you pay for a Boardman Grow membership. So you kind of get the idea. Usually takes, groups run 10 to 12 months. At least in my experience, we've had 5 to 7 sessions, 2-3 hours each. So you actually get into a topic, deep enough into a topic. So that's the time commitment you need to put into it. My experience, and I talked to a few of the people who run it, optimal number is 8 to 12 members. We usually do a bit of handpicking so that the group members kind of have something relevant for each other. Kind of if you're a 2 million ARR company and then another one is 150, there's quite a big gap here, and the questions and differences are quite different. So it might be that sparring is limited by that. So we try to match within the possibilities groups as well as possible. But like I said, follow Boardman Grow on social media, on web. New groups are coming. Feel free to come up to me and have questions, or any of the board members, about the topics. And if you have a theme or topic that you think that we should start building a group around, let me know. I'll let any of the board members know. We're happy to think about, could we kind of put together 8 to 12 people and find somebody good to run it. That's quite a good way. And of course, we want to help entrepreneurs to tackle these topics.
Works. Good. Hey, let's continue. I hope you had a good discussions, and it wasn't total chaos of changing the groups, because you all are here, so we didn't lose you. Hey, we have the rest of the day still coming up. We have super interesting talks. I've been waiting for these ones. We will have Kaisa Hutton, Global Head of HR from Nosto Solutions, together with us. Kaisa is enthusiastic forest walker, loves the nature, but she also operates as a Global Head of HR at Nosto. For the past 15 years, Kaisa has been guiding Finnish growth companies with international ambitions in people matters. Sorry, I'm going this way. I'll keep this one here. But Nosto, a few words about Nosto, is an intelligent commerce experience platform that helps brands enrich and activate customer, product, and content data in real time. But today, Kaisa is here to guide us through the team multiplier, together with Anastasia Strandberg, Senior Manager from PwC. Stage is yours, ladies.
Hello, everybody.
Hi. So my name is Anastasia, as Sampa mentioned, and have to say at first, what a great energy here today, and great discussions. So yeah, well done. Yeah. So I'm an HR consultant leading the HR consulting services at PwC, and Kaisa, could you give us a short description of what it is in practice that Nosto does? Let's start from there, so everyone understands. You're here to talk about the team.
Mm-hmm. Basically, I would say that we help brands, mostly in their online environment, to make every impression that they have with their end customers relevant. Saying that if I go to a web shop to purchase something, my experience in that web shop will be totally different. Or if Sampa goes there, his experience will be totally different. That experience will be personalized to suit my interests, my background, what I'm interested in, and what I want to see. Maybe very simplistically put.
Yeah. Yeah. That opens it up, at least to me. So I think if I can understand it, everyone can understand it. So we have a little bit of background. So touching upon the background and reflecting a bit your experience and why you're here and why you're one of the best to talk about this talent topic as a growth multiplier. So when you first joined Nosto, when you think about that day and today, what's the difference? What that period has been? What has it included?
Well, if really thinking from a team perspective, so I joined Nosto back in 2016, 8 years ago. Back then, we're a Finnish-based company, and we were headquartered in Finland. Already back then, we had legal entities in Germany, in Sweden. We had people on the ground in UK, although they weren't a legal entity there. We were about 50 people. I think during my first week, we sent our first employee to the US, so we started our business there. Since then, we've been growing both organically and through M&As. We've established in the UK, we've established a company in France, we've acquired a company in Australia, Lithuania, Austria. Today, we're about 200 employees in 9 different legal entities. And in addition, we also employ some people outside of these countries through EOR services, employer of record services, in those countries where we don't have any legal entities of our own.
Yeah, so the growth phase so far, it has been growth in headcount, but not just in headcount, maybe even more significantly in the number of countries and areas you operate in.
Yeah, I would say like we haven't been the typical startup scale-up that grows from 100 to 500 or 1,000 in a couple of years. It's been maybe more moderate, but really the expansion globally has been quite remarkable in that sense.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, that Nosto has grown both organically and through various M&A phases. What has that meant for the HR team and for the team altogether at Nosto? Various countries, cultures, different backgrounds.
I think a lot comes back to trust. So when you're growing organically, you're adding, a person or 2 person at a time, and you have time to build a relationship with that new employee. You have time to take them into your culture. When you're growing through M&A, all of a sudden you're adding 30 or 40 people at once. They don't know you, you don't know them. How do you build that sort of like trusting relationship where you all of a sudden belong to one company and you need to grow together and you need to find a way to move forward as one entity? So I think that's something that's put a lot of pressure and probably strain as well on us in HR, trying to figure out like how do we actually connect with people when they come in bunches rather than just one-on-one.
Yeah. So earning that trust.
Earning the trust. That's something that I find really important and comes to any type of change, I guess, really, that if you don't have the trust from the people, it's going to be very difficult to make any change within the organization.
Yeah, well, you've mentioned M&As and growing by adding companies and countries. When we think about or look at the markets and research about how many of those M&A operations exceed to meet the expectations set out to them, we see from research, for example, that at the core is the company culture, and that could be the defining factor for at least on average 50% of the mergers that don't meet those expectations. So what are your experiences on the company culture, especially during these years of growth? And how would you describe the culture or the company spirit at Nosto?
Well, if I first take the company culture at Nosto, maybe, and then moving on to how to spread it. From the get-go, I think Nosto has had this ambition of being international, and that's also been reflected in our culture. So we've been very international within the company as well when it comes to the team. Already when we started, we had our headquarters in Helsinki. Probably more than 50% of the employees were from somewhere else. They weren't Finnish nationals. The same we can still see today. If we have an office in France, a lot of the people there are maybe not French nationals. They might be coming from somewhere else in the world, or our team in Berlin. They're very international. What we also emphasize in the culture is flexibility, probably coming from this Nordic way of thinking. So we want to be flexible with our employees, whether they work from home, from the office, flexibility to work from abroad, because we have a lot of international employees. They might want to go and visit their family and friends back home. And we want to be able to make sure that they can maybe prolong their stay, work for a while from home, and in that case, kind of keep some sort of better contact with their families as well. Another big cultural aspect is also probably creating bonds between our people. So making sure that the people within our team, they find friends within the organization. So if you would ask Nostonians, I'm sure pretty many of them would say that they have a best friend within the company. And I think that's something that's really cool about the culture and also retention value. in the company.
Yeah, retention is another topic that's raised up. For example, in surveys conducted by PwC, it was seen that on our global M&A survey on 2023, the talent is actually at the key or at the heart of success. And you mentioned culture and you described the culture you have at Nosto, but what about the moments when you have bought another company? How have you nurtured the talent, or how have you continued to share and keep up the culture you have, or what do you do before there's a decision that we'll go through with this plan?
Well, at least in the due diligence process, when looking at possible companies to acquire or merge with, find it very useful to really look at the culture part of that company as well. So not just look at business numbers or fit with the tech stack, or looking at whether the market is something we kind of complementary or need, but really looking at the team and the culture and trying to ask the right sort of questions in due diligence, like basic things, what is your company language? What sort of things do you value? How do you see working time? Does your team work a lot of overtime? What would you say if your leadership team member would go on a parental leave? How would you react? Like trying to really figure out how they view the things that are important to our culture and making sure that there is a match with that company. Of course, there's always difficulty in, you don't see the team, you don't meet the team most of the time before you acquire their numbers on a paper, but trying to ask the right questions in the due diligence process will at least try to get you further in that way of making sure that the cultural match is there. Then during the actual integration process, we try to make sure that each employee from the acquired company, they get a Nosto buddy. So they get somebody who is their kind of person to guide them with regards to the culture. And it's not somebody from the same function, it's maybe not even somebody from the same country. We just want to make sure that there's somebody to tell more about, like, hey, how do we do things at Nosto? What's okay, what's not? Can I come in dressed like this? How should I act? What should I do? And really somehow like be a more informal type of guide for them. What else? Of course, meeting with the team also from the HR team, going to that company to see what is their reality, talking with the people, and in that way building the trust and sharing about our culture. Having a lot of presentations about Nosto and our culture. That's, of course, part of it. We always organize a newbie day, whether it's somebody who starts organically, we hire them, or they come through M&As. We have a newbie day where we talk about where did Nosto originate from? What was the founding story? Where do our values come from? How do they showcase in our everyday? Try to do it a little bit fun, have quizzes and have people meet each other, and in that way somehow strengthen the culture.
Yeah, great practical example of the buddy program, but I think you mentioned tying them to the story of Nosto, and I think that's very critical and key. So making sure that everyone is along the same journey, part of that same story. What about your experiences, or have you faced any pain points in terms of culture or the talent retention you mentioned?
I think pain points, especially when it comes maybe now to the M&As. We always do feedback surveys after the M&As, trying to ask the team how they felt about the merger or acquisition and what they felt we did correct, what we did wrong. And we've done 3 right now. And the feedback from all of them, although we've tried to get better every time, is you should communicate more. You should tell us more. I know you said that we're going to get new contracts this and this time. But you could tell it again. You could say that nothing has changed from the last time I communicated that you will get the new contracts. We still haven't been able to ace that. So that's still a learning process, like how much actually the receiving party, they really need reassurance. They want us to tell them all the time, like, hey, whatever we told you, it still makes sense. It's still keeping up. So that's really a big pain point from us, trying to kind of nail that communication.
Yeah, and the level of expectation for communication is something that is very hard to fulfill.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, what about the talent retention? Does it come down to the money that the company pays, or are there other factors?
There's always going to be people paying more. So you're not going to win your people with money. It needs to be at a level where, you know, it's some sort of like household level that you're okay, but you're never going to keep the team with that. I would rather advise you to look into your strengths. What are the strengths of your culture? What are the strengths of your team? For us, as I mentioned, you know, the flexibility is something that's important. We want to be able to provide a lot of flexibility to our team. The people, the culture, the bonding between our people, that's a true retention tool for us. So creating those bonds between our employees, making sure that they have best friends, making sure that they interact outside of Nosto. That's something that for sure keeps people with us. And maybe when looking at then retention also for people joining through M&A, seeing if there's any part of their culture that we can somehow bring into our own culture so that they see that we value and respect the culture they're bringing along. I was telling Sampa here earlier that, for example, the company that we acquired from Australia, they had a really cool benefit called the birthday day off. And we thought, hey, perfect, this fits with our culture. Let's incorporate that into it fits into our flexibility, it fits into the values of, you know, being able to take time off, recharge, be yourself. So that became part of our culture through that acquisition. And I think it's a showcase to them as well that we thought they're doing something right, and we want to encourage them to bring in their ideas as well into this new company.
And what about the journey when you realize that you have these values, or there are these factors like the flexibility that the employees value, and those work as a source of talent retention for you? You have very international team, operations everywhere. Did you come up with something that was seen as a benefit that you didn't realize before you started thinking about it as a tool for retention? Or were the things identified the same ones that the team here in Finland had been thinking, that these probably are our strengths?
Did we have something that we didn't realize was a benefit?
Yeah.
I think sometimes maybe, especially for companies that have come in, really the amount of flexibility might have come as a surprise, and they didn't maybe realize it in that sense that, hey, you know, if we say that it's okay for you to go to the gym during the day, or you need to pick up your kids or take your kids somewhere, it's fine. You can, you know, adjust your working hours. And sometimes coming from maybe a more different structured culture, they're really like asking twice, like, do you actually mean that I can do this during working time? And you know, they really want to make sure that they're not misunderstanding the benefit that we have.
Yeah, so just communicating flexibility wasn't enough.
No, you really need to be quite specific about what that flexibility is.
Yeah. I think we're running our time here. I think the last thing I want to ask you is there a key learning that you wish someone would have told you 8 years ago to prepare you for this trip?
I think one thing I was thinking about when we were discussing this beforehand is that from an HR perspective, you always plan a lot. You really try to like make a concrete plan and try to think of all the scenarios. But when you're talking about the human element, there's always going to be something that changes. There's always going to be some twist in the road or something that doesn't go the way you thought. So you have to be ready to just like, you know, stand on your feet and say, okay, fine. We had a plan. We had a good plan. We had thought about, you know, 5 different types of scenarios, how this could go. This was apparently the 6th or the 10th scenario that we didn't think about, but let's roll with it. Let's, you know, do the best we can and then change course. So I think you just have to be able to sometimes go with the flow, even though in HR that might be a little bit difficult when you're a control freak and want to kind of be in charge of everything, but sometimes you just need to let go and see where the tide will take you.
Yeah, so embracing the growth mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those 3 main points or takeaways, any additional comments?
I think as I mentioned before, so the trust is really important. If you want to change something, you need to have the trust of the people. You're not going to be able to change anything within your company if the team doesn't trust you. Respect global language. Many times, even though the company language might be English and you're acquiring companies that have a company language in English, you don't speak their mother tongue, you don't know the culture of that company, but as long as you're treating every individual with respect, you're treating the companies you're acquiring with respect, that's something that everybody understands, and that will bring you to the trust. And as said, communicate. I still haven't learned this one, still learning, but you cannot communicate enough, apparently.
Thank you. We still have time for a few questions. Anybody from the audience who wants to go first? Here we go.
Thanks, Kaisa. You mentioned that you've grown internationally quite widely, but still you're a fairly small Finnish company. What have been the biggest challenges in recruiting talent internationally, and how have you overcome those?
I think just getting the kind of first part of the funnel right, so you get the applications in. Typically then when you're there, you will find the good candidates and the right sort of talent. But trying to kind of push those candidates to apply for you. If you're a company, you know, Nosto, you're trying to recruit somebody in the US, you're really not a household name. Nobody knows you. They don't know what you stand for. They don't know anything about you. One way we've tried to tackle that is with referrals, employee referrals. So we're paying a bonus to our employees to refer positions, you know, to their friends, to their acquaintances, and trying to build our network through that way.
Jarkko, you had one question.
Yeah, I had a question. Yes, thanks. Yes, I had a question about the M&A, potential M&As that has there been like, you know, have you stopped something in the process because of a finding in the company culture or something like this?
There's probably been, you know, potential candidates, if you so say so, that didn't pass the culture mark, yes.
What was the main pain point there, or?
It could have been any type of like, I don't know, you get the sort of feeling from the due diligence questions that you're asking, that if you read between the lines, pretty much you can get a feeling of whether this is something that will match or clash. I don't know if that's a good enough answer, but sometimes trusting your gut is good.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. And here we have one more.
Hi, Kaisa. I know the e-commerce industry has had ups and downs in the last, I would say, well, 2020, COVID, and then inflation, etc. How has this affected you and your work and the team? Probably not always happy days.
No, it's not always happy days, and I think there as well, respect is something you have to remember, whether it's up or down. People still, deserve respect. So as long as you keep that in mind, I think you can manage both the up and downs, but of course it's never easy.
Good advice. Thank you, Kaisa.
Thank you.
Thank you. What a day we have had. So thanks a lot for all the great keynotes and also the interviewers. We had a great key takeaway, so we will share that with you guys. So Taina will make sure that we will have also the key takeaways, all of the participants here. But at least what I took for example, what Ben said in the beginning is the selectiveness with the partners is super important when you're positioning yourself into the market. In their case, Adidas. What a great way to position yourself. They kind of hit the nail. But if they would have started something totally different, it would have been probably a different story in the beginning. Another one with Jarkko and Aki talking about the funding. I think the funding and resilience goes very hand in hand. So you really need to be patient and have the resilience there. And I think the one key takeaway also the coupling that finding out those kind of different kinds of funding packages. It's not only that you go into one direction, but you need to get also all the public and the private funding possibilities. For Antti, I think there was many things, but at least for me, one of the things was that kind of the sharing your learnings and sharing your innovations, what you are doing, it will always give you back. It will always give you back. And of course, remember, measure what matters. So NPS, if you are not already doing it, please start doing it right now. And for Kaisa's, I think that building the culture through, you had a great, very easily to executable for all of us, like Nosto Buddy program or the free birthday. That's a great idea, or the newbie day that you had there. But all of those are building the trust and the excitement of the company, and that brings then into the stickiness of the people. So which means the retention. So I think that way we can really explain why investing into the culture really makes sense. Great points. We still have a few things for all of you, the watchers there online. Bad news, you will not get the bubbly that we will get here. So we start immediately very soon. But before that little advertisement break, we are organizing a Silicon Valley trip this fall. So there's still a few spots available. Here are a few people who have been, for example, Tero here. You can ask more. How was it last year? So it's a great experience to see what's happening in the land of hope and glory. We have something to learn from them. You can book your trip through boardmangrow.fi. So more information about that one. But hey, we still have one more thing. The results. What do you think? What's the most important multiplier? What do you guys think? Any guesses? These were before the presentation, so there was no biases on that one. People. Team. Let's see if we have it here. Not yet. Here we go. Team, 39%. Product service, 23%, and the same as the market. And the funding is the rest of it. So pretty interesting. But as we see, people really matters. I think this is not really academic research done, but at least we have numbers behind it, so you can take a pictures. This is what Antti actually said, that you better have those numbers for you. So we know that people really make sense. So thanks to all of you people. It's been a pleasure to host with you. And now it's time for a little bubbly and get to know each other more. Thank you.